Welcome to 2021. What is up, everyone, and welcome to the very first video here on Coastal Trails Media for 2021 and the second episode in the Minimalism Financials series. The whole premise of this channel being about maximizing your life without spending a ton of money. Then I figured it was a great opportunity and idea to actually go back over every single dollar I spent of my $40,000 salary in 2020. And so in 2020, I actually managed to accomplish a goal I've had for a whole lot of years now, and that was to track every single dollar that came in and that went out throughout the entire year. Now, in order to do this, I used a tracker that I actually built myself, which is just basically a fancy spreadsheet, and I'll be going over that in a few weeks on the channel. But I also used this program that I wrote that actually takes into account all of that information and produces a nice, concise document that reports how much I spent in each category for every single month. However, nowadays it's definitely worth mentioning that there are several different apps out there that are free that you can download that require a lot less effort. And the reason I mention that is because it's widely accepted that the only true way to get a good sense of where your money is going, as well as how you can improve financially, is to track your expenses. Now, I don't think you need to track every dollar for an entire year, and oftentimes 3 to 6 months is enough information to actually help you build a realistic budget that you can actually stick to. And so when it comes to personal finance, there are kind of 3 components, and that's your income, your expenses, and your savings rate. So let's jump into the income. So now, while my salary is technically $40K as per my contract, by the time you deduct taxes, insurance, union fees, and everything else that comes with it, I actually brought in from my job about $29,000 in 2020. Now, you can add in a couple of other things, whether those are tax returns or gifts money or whatever, and total income was about between $31,000 and $32,000. So then the question becomes, that second piece is, how do I actually spend that $31,000, $32,000 a year? And so in 2020, I had a total of 408 different purchases. Now, when you think about that, that's actually quite a bit. That's more than one purchase a day. But that's not actually the case, because in the way that I've set up my tracker, every time I pay rent, utilities, insurance, the several different types of insurance, all of those things count as individual purchases. And so normally at the beginning of the month, you have pretty much at least 10 different purchases that are automatic. And so this 408 total purchases summed up to an expense of $21,380.84. And so this actually breaks down to a monthly expenditure of about $1,785. And this money can get broken down into a whole bunch of categories. This is just a general pie chart that shows you what percentage of that 21,000 was allocated to each category. But like most people, my largest expense was rent. I spent a total of $5,790 on rent alone. And when you account in other living expenses like utilities and internet, it comes to about 32% of my salary. And so this is normally pretty good, as most experts will suggest a living expense of between $30,000 and $35,000. So that accounts for your housing and all of the stuff that goes with it.
My second biggest expense category, for me personally, was this bad boy. Definitely transportation in my vehicle. Cost me more money than basically anything else in 2020. So when I looked at it, repairs alone, my car cost about $2,500 in 2020. Now, with that being said, there was a lot of unforeseen things that happened, but it just goes to show how important an emergency fund is, because $2,500 is not necessarily something that everyone has lying around. And if you had to just put that into your car, I mean, that could blow up your savings for the year. It could blow up your savings, period. And so it really goes to show the importance of having an emergency fund be there in case you actually need it. But so when you add onto that the amount of gas money that I spent at about $1,800, that's $4,300 on my car alone, not counting insurance and licensing and all the rest of it for 2020. That is nearly as much money as I spent on rent. And when you combine it with rent, that's over $10,000 in 1 year. A lot of people say that cars are money pits, and can't say that I really disagree with them.
So this means that together, when you account for my living expenses, my rent and my utilities, and just my transportation in terms of the repairs on my car as well as gas, that comes to over 50% of my spending. My third biggest expense is most people's third biggest expense after housing and transportation, and that's food. As for most people, my food budget does not only include my groceries, but also every time I eat out, alcohol, and snacks. Now, I don't think I would suggest spending $1,000 out in restaurants when I only spent $2,500 on groceries, but with everything that happened in 2020, I definitely felt a little bit better about it because of the idea that I was doing it to support local businesses. I was doing it to try and help because I do still have an income and I can afford it. It's the least I can do to help the people out there. I did spend money on other things as well over the year, including camera gear and outdoor gear, whether that was for the YouTube channel or just my personal life. And I just wanted to give you guys a full breakdown of all of the potential smaller categories that saw money allocated to them in 2020. Now, as we discussed at the beginning, the last part of this whole personal finance situation is savings. Now, the only way to really assess whether, for me personally at least, to assess whether or not your spending is adequate is to look at whether or not you're meeting your specific savings goals. In general, experts suggest a minimum of about 10% savings rate based on your income, which for me, if my income was $30,000, that's only $3,000. And so all in all, this year in 2020, I actually managed to save just over $11,000. Now that comes to about a 30% savings rate, which is not quite my 40 to 50% savings rate that I target. However, it did manage to allow me to meet my other savings goals of a net worth of over $20,000. My original goal was that, a net worth at the end of 2020 of over $20,000. And I'm pretty happy that I actually managed to meet that, regardless of the fact that I didn't hit my 40 to 50% savings goals. Now, with that being said, there are definitely still places that I can trim back, and the fact that I didn't quite hit that second goal of 40 to 50% savings rate is almost a good thing, because it means that I can build and work towards something this year in 2021. So let's look at the goals for 2021. So as my target last year was 20K, the target for this year, as difficult as it may be, is to double that and have a net worth of $40,000 by the end of 2021. And so when I take this concept of expanding my $11,000 saved in 2020 to about double that, really between 18 and 20,000 for 2021, that's a pretty scary thing. However, when I look at where my money actually went, whether that was eating out or how much money I spent fixing my car because of stupid mistakes, or even just equipment that now that I have, I don't need anymore, I do think it's possible that I could probably attain that goal. Difficult, but possible. When you think about it, if I can take that $1,700, $1,800 a month spending and trim that down to $1,400 to $1,500 a month, that's about $300 that I save every month. It's $3,600 a year. That takes my $11,000 to $15,000, and all of a sudden that $18,000 target is a lot closer. And so I think that's the true beauty of understanding your expenses, is it allows you to actually look at every single dollar and go, was this expense necessary? Was this purchase good? Am I still getting value from all of these different things? And if so, keep them. And if not, trim them out, and you can use that money then to put towards something that is actually meaningful for you. And so that's it. That's how I spent my $40,000 that I made in 2020. And so I really am looking forward to how my expenses are going to change and my spending is going to change in 2021. With life hopefully maybe one day getting back to normal and things opening up again, there opens up a lot more opportunities to spend. However, if I can curb my behavior and trim back on some unnecessary and unexpected expenses, I'm hoping that maybe we can still manage to hit those targets. One thing's for sure is that having those targets in mind definitely make me second think every single purchase, which, while it can be annoying, is ultimately beneficial for me. So with that, I want to say thank you very much, and I will see you guys next week.